It may be just teaching your coworker the skills you know, helping that family that's struggling with the rent, taking that young man to baseball practice with your son each week. It's no big deal to you, but it's a miracle to them. It's what will push them toward their destiny. What kind of world would this be if we all had the attitude, I am a miracle waiting to happen? I've heard it said, sometimes we don't need a miracle, we just need each other. Look around at who's in your life. Listen to what they're saying. Is there any way that you can help? Can you put in a good word for them at the office? Do they need a dress for a special occasion and you've got a dozen in your closet you're never going to wear? Do they live here alone? Their family's in another state. You could invite them to have lunch with your family from time to time, make them feel welcome. Those are opportunities to become a miracle. Good friend of mine grew up in the projects, very poor, came from a single parent family, and there wasn't always stability in the home. His dream was to become a television journalist. He loved to read and write. Against all odds, he got a scholarship to a major university. He's African American. He was accepted at this mostly white Ivy League school. His roommate came from a very prestigious, influential family. He came from just the opposite, from the project, a low-income family. But these two young men hit it off and became the best of friends. He told his roommate his dream of becoming a journalist. His roommate said, if you're going to be a journalist, you've got to have a better vocabulary. You don't know enough words. Every day, this roommate would get the dictionary out and teach his friend one new word. Had him use it in sentences all through the day. This went on for 4 straight years. What was this roommate doing? Becoming a miracle. He took time to care. He realized his friend was in his life for a reason. Today, this young man is one of the top newscasters in America. He works for a major network, seen on one of the most prestigious news programs. But I wonder where he would be if his roommate had not taken time to become a miracle. Well, you say, Joel, I don't want to hear about being a miracle. I need a miracle. Here's the key. If you will become a miracle, God will always make sure that you have the miracles that you need. As long as you're sowing these seeds, the right people will be in your future. The right opportunities, the breaks you need, God will get you to where you're supposed to be. That's what it says in Proverbs 11. When you refresh others, you will be refreshed. If you want your dream to come to pass, help somebody else's dream come to pass. If you need a miracle, become a miracle. When you take time to invest in others, the seeds you sow will always come back to you. I met 2 ladies after the service a few years ago, and one of them was a little older and one younger, and I thought they were mother and daughter, but the older one said, no, we're not, but she's just like my daughter. And she told how before we moved the church from the Northeast location to this new facility, she didn't know if she would be able to continue to come. She's a widow and not used to driving on the freeways. She was very concerned about it. One day after service, she was telling a group of friends her dilemma. This young lady that she had never met before overheard what she was saying. She stepped up and said, how about I'll come pick you up each Sunday and bring you? The lady looked at her very surprised. She said, are you serious? Where do you live? Come to find out, they live 30 minutes apart. But that didn't stop this young lady. She could have thought, well, I'd love to help you, but that's a long way. I'm busy in my career and gas is really high. No, she saw this as an opportunity to become a miracle. Now, every Sunday morning, like clockwork, she pulls up in her driveway, 9:30 in the morning, brings her to church. After this older lady told me the story, she hugged this young girl and said, Joel, she's my miracle. You can't help everyone, but you can help someone. There are people God has put in your path that are connected to your destiny. As you help them rise higher, then you will rise higher. As you meet their needs, God will meet your needs. As you become a miracle, God will give you miracles. But just the opposite is true. If we're too busy to help someone else, we're not going to have the help we need. If we're too caught up in our own dreams to invest in others, or too worried about our own problems to encourage somebody else, we're going to get stuck. Reaching your highest potential is dependent on you helping someone else reach their potential. It's like a boomerang. When you help somebody else rise higher, it always comes back to you and you'll rise higher. Jesus told a parable in Luke chapter 10 about a man that was walking down the road when he was attacked and beaten by these bandits. They left him on the ground, almost dead. In a little while, a priest came by, saw the man from a distance, thought, boy, he's in bad shape. He sure needs a miracle. I'll be praying for him. Kept on going. Another man came by, a Levite. He did a little better. He went over to the man, checked him out, felt sorry for him, thought, boy, this is really unfair. I hope somebody helps him. Went on down the road. The third man, a Samaritan, came by. Like the first two, he thought, boy, he sure needs a miracle. But he took it one step further and said, you know what? I am his miracle. I'm at the right place at the right time. God put him in my path so I can be a healer, so I can be a restorer, so I can give him a new beginning. The Samaritan went to him, got down on his knees, and began to care for him. He gave him water from his canteen, took off his scarf and bandaged up his wounds. He then gently lifted him off the ground, placed him on his animal. He held him mile after mile as they walked to the nearest city. They got to the local inn, the hotel. He paid the owner, said, you take care of him. Let him stay as long as he'd like. Give him anything that he needs, and I promise you this, I'll come back and pay for any extra expenses. My question today is, which man are you? It's easy to get so busy. Joel, I don't have time to help others. I got my own problems. No, helping others can be the key to seeing your situation turn around. Those people you see that need encouragement, that need a ride, that need you to give blood, that need help in accomplishing a dream, those are opportunities for you to go to a higher level. When you refresh others, you will be refreshed. Nothing that comes your way in life is too much for you. God promised He will never let us face more than we can bear. And we all go through challenges, disappointments, unfair situations. And it's easy to let it overwhelm us to where we think, this is too much. I can't deal with this illness. I can't handle this difficult child. Or I can't take this traffic. It's driving me crazy. This relationship issue, it's going to be the end of me. No, God would not have allowed it if you couldn't handle it. But as long as you're telling yourself it's too much, then you'll talk yourself out of it. You've got to get in agreement with God. You are not weak. You are full of can-do power. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives on the inside of you. And all through the day, whether you're stuck in traffic or facing a major disappointment, your attitude should be, I can handle it. I can handle this grouchy boss. I can handle this difficult child. I can handle these people talking about me. I can handle the Texans not winning. You can't have a weak, defeated mentality. You got to have a warrior mentality. This is what Joseph did. He was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, spent years in prison for something that he didn't do. But he didn't get depressed. He didn't start complaining. His attitude was, I can handle it. God is still on the throne. He wouldn't have allowed it unless He had a purpose for it. So I'm going to stay in faith and keep being my best. In the end, he was made second in charge over all of Egypt. Listen, no person can keep you from your destiny. No bad break, no disappointment, no sickness. My mother was diagnosed with terminal liver cancer in 1981, given a few weeks to live. She could have fallen apart and thought, God, it's not fair. I've served you all these years. I don't understand it. No, her attitude was, I can handle it. I'm not a victim. I'm a victor. Nothing can snatch me out of God's hands. This week, you know, we're celebrating her 80th birthday, still strong and healthy, full of joy, full of peace. My father, back in the 1950s, he was the pastor of a large denominational church. His future looked very bright. They just built a beautiful new sanctuary. But through a series of events, my dad had to leave that church. It was a major setback, a big disappointment. He'd given years of his life there. But Daddy didn't sit around nursing his wounds. His attitude was, I can handle it. I know when one door closes, God always opens up another door. He and my mother went out and launched Lakewood Church. And here we are today, still going strong. Paul put it this way, Philippians 4:13, I have strength for all things through Christ who empowers me. Listen to his declaration. I am ready for anything. I am equal to anything through Him who infuses strength into me. I like that. I'm ready for and equal to anything. He was saying, the enemy may hit me with his best shot, but it won't stop me. I'm more than a conqueror. Paul knew what he was talking about. He had been shipwrecked, spent the night on an open sea, gone days without food. He was falsely accused, beaten with rods, thrown into prison. If anyone had a right, at least in the natural, to be negative, bitter, complain, it would have been Paul. But he understood this principle. His attitude was, I can handle it. I am ready for and equal to it. Why? Because Almighty God, the Creator of the universe, has infused me with strength. He has equipped me, empowered me, anointed me, crowned me with favor, put royal blood in my veins, called me to reign in life as a king. In difficult times, like Paul, you've got to talk to yourself the right way. If you don't talk to yourself, your thoughts will talk to you. They'll tell you it's too much. It's never going to change. It's not fair. If God loved you, He would have never let this happen. No, the Scripture says, rain falls on the just and the unjust. Just because we're a person of faith, that doesn't exempt us from difficulties. Jesus told a parable about this, where one person built their house on a rock. They honored God. Another person built their house on the sand. They didn't. What's interesting is the same storm came to both people. The wind, the rain fell on both houses. The difference is, when you honor God, the storm may come, but when it's all said and done, you'll still be standing. The other house, built on the sand, was washed away. The enemy may hit you with his best shot, but because your house is built on the rock, his best will never be enough. When the storm is over, you'll not only come through it, but you'll come out stronger, increased, promoted, better than you were before. Now you've got to do like Paul, shake off a victim mentality and have a victor mentality. You're not a weakling. You're not lacking. The most powerful force in the universe is breathing in your direction. And every morning you need to remind yourself, I am ready for and equal to anything that comes my way. I am full of can-do power. Listen, that sickness is no match for you. That relationship issue is not going to keep you from your destiny. The loss of that loved one did not stop God's plan for your life. Don't let it overwhelm you. You can handle it. You've been armed with strength. And when you have this warrior mentality, this attitude of faith, knowing that you've been equipped and empowered, then all the forces of darkness cannot stop you. Isaiah said, take hold of His strength. When you make this declaration, I can handle it, that's not just being positive, you're taking hold of strength. When you say it, you're getting stronger. That's why the Scripture says, let the weak say, I am strong. If you're always talking about the problem, I can't stand this job, and this professor is so difficult, I'll never pass his course. My loved one didn't make it, I don't know what I'm going to do. All that's doing is draining you. When you talk defeat, strength is leaving, energy is leaving, creativity is leaving. Quit letting those things overwhelm you. You are not a victim, you are a victor. If it came your way, you can handle it. You are ready for it and equal to it. And if you'll stay in agreement with God, He will take what's meant for your harm and He will use it to your advantage. That difficulty won't defeat you, it will promote you. I read about this businessman. He had worked for a large home improvement company for over 30 years. They had retail stores all over the country, and he had helped build it from the ground up. But one day they had this corporate restructuring, They decided that they no longer needed him. And of course, he was disappointed. It didn't seem fair. But instead of sitting around nursing his wounds, thinking about what he lost, he had the attitude, I can handle it. This is not going to defeat me, it's going to promote me. In difficult times, you have to remind yourself that that is not a surprise to God. God is not up in the heavens scratching his head saying, oh man, he got laid off. That messed everything up. Oh, she got diagnosed with cancer. Joseph got thrown into a pit. Joel lost his father. Now what am I going to do? No, God knows the end from the beginning. He has already written every day of your life in His book. The good news is, if you'll stay in faith, your book ends in victory. This executive, instead of looking for another job, he got a couple of his friends and they started their own company. They called it the Home Depot. It's become one of the largest, most successful home improvement stores in the world. What am I saying? That difficulty is not meant to defeat you. It's meant to promote you. A setback is simply a setup for a greater comeback. Well, Joel, it's so hard and I don't understand it. It doesn't seem fair. You're talking yourself into defeat. If it came your way, you can handle it. Start talking to yourself a new way. I'm well able. I'm equipped. I'm empowered. I'm ready for anything. The fact is, God is not going to deliver us from every difficulty. He's not going to keep us from every challenge. If He did, we would never grow. The Scripture says our faith is tried in the fire of affliction. When you're in a tough time, that's an opportunity to show God what you're made of. Anybody can get negative, bitter, blame God, lose their passion. That's easy. But if you want to pass the test, if you want God to take you to a new level, you cannot be a weakling, you've got to be a warrior. Dig your heels in and say like Paul, I can handle it. I'm ready for it. I'm equal to it. I know God is still on the throne. He's fighting my battles. And on the other side of this difficulty is a new level of my destiny. Colossians 3:12 says, God has given us the power to endure whatever comes our way with a good attitude. Maybe at the office, you're not being treated fairly. It's one thing to go to work negative, discouraged, complaining, bad-mouthing the boss. That doesn't take any faith. But if you want to pass the test, you've got to go to work with a smile on your face, with a good attitude, being good to people, doing more than you have to. At your house, maybe your spouse is not treating you the way they should. It's easy to think, I'm going to treat him the way he's treating me. These kids are disrespectful. I'm not going to give them the time of day. But if you want to pass the test, you've got to be good to people even when they're not being good to you. You've got to do the right thing when the wrong thing is happening. See it as an opportunity to grow. Every time you do the right thing, a blessing will follow. When you take the high road, there will always be a reward. We all love to be blessed, to see new doors opening, our business taking off. We meet the person of our dreams, or we move into that new house. We know that's God taking us where we can't go on our own. But here's the key. The blessing doesn't come by itself. Jesus told His disciples in Mark chapter 10, anything you give up for my sake, houses, property, people, you will receive in this life 100-fold return with persecution. He could have said, I'm going to give you the blessing, the houses, the resources, the promotion, and left it there. But He added this asterisk, so to speak, and said, I'm going to bless you, but with that blessing is going to come opposition, jealousy, criticism, people that are not for you. The question is not so much, can you handle the blessing? The question is, can you handle the persecution? Can you handle being misunderstood, talked about, left out? Everyone is not going to celebrate your success. All your friends won't be happy when you get that promotion. All your relatives won't cheer you on when you move into that new house, when your business increases, when you get engaged. The favor on your life will stir up the jealousy, the competition, the envy in certain people. Don't get upset. It's not about you, it's about the blessing on your life. You can't have the blessing without some kind of persecution. If you're going to be blessed on a greater level, you're going to be persecuted on a greater level. If you can handle the persecution, then God can trust you with the blessing. As long as you're going to be offended, upset, fight with people, then the blessing wouldn't be a blessing. You have to pass the test of overlooking insults, ignoring what people are saying, not paying attention to the critics, those trying to discredit you. They wouldn't be talking if you weren't making a difference, if you weren't a leader, if you weren't shining brightly. Let God deal with the naysayers. Let God take care of those that are trying to make you look bad, trying to stir up trouble, leaving you out. Some people can't handle your success. They were fine as long as you were at their level. They had no problem as long as you were in the same department, as long as you were single like them, as long as you lived in their neighborhood. But when God blesses you in a greater way, it can stir things up. You have to be okay with them not being okay with you. Your time is too valuable to worry about what people think about you. Your assignment is too important to try to convince everyone to like you. Don't waste your time and energy trying to make someone be for you that's never going to be for you. You don't need everyone to celebrate you. You don't need all your coworkers, all your relatives to cheer you on. If you become too dependent on people, what they think, do they validate me? Are they happy with my success? Then if they don't meet your expectations, if they don't approve you, you'll spend your time trying to get their approval, upset because they're not for you. Don't look to people, look to God. People can get jealous. People can be competitive, moody. You don't need their approval. You have Almighty God's approval. When Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, it was a great miracle. You would think everyone would be happy. Everyone would celebrate that this man had life again. He could see his children. He could go enjoy his family. But the leaders in the synagogue were jealous. They didn't like the fact that it brought more attention to Jesus. They were already plotting to kill him. But the scripture says the religious leaders decided to kill Lazarus too. Here Lazarus, all he did was come back to life. Wasn't even his choice. God chose to bless him, to make him an example of his goodness. But with that great blessing came great persecution. If God is going to bless you in a greater way, you have to be able to handle greater persecution. Don't get upset when people turn on you. Don't be revengeful and use your influence to pay them back. Live bitter, always thinking about what they said. Ignore it. Don't give it the time of day. Keep shining, keep dreaming, keep being good to people, and God will take care of the persecutors. He'll deal with the critics, the jealous people, the opposition. What's interesting is the religious leaders never did kill Lazarus. They came up with a plan, they had a strategy, but it never succeeded. That's because people can't stop your destiny. The blessing on your life is greater than any force that's trying to hold you back. Now don't stay focused on the persecution. Why did they turn on me? Why are they talking about me? Why aren't they for me? It's because the blessing comes with persecution. It's a test. Can you handle the opposition, the jealousy, the people stirring up trouble? You know who gets jealous when you succeed? Small-minded people. Small-minded people think you going up makes them look bad, so they try to pull you down. Instead of believing that what God did for you, He can do for them, they start criticizing, finding fault, trying to make you look bad. They think God's favor is limited, that you being blessed is keeping them from rising higher. They don't realize God has unlimited favor. What He's done for you, He can do for them. I've seen this in my own life. God has taken me places that I've never dreamed. I recognize that it's His goodness. I couldn't have done this on my own. And there have been many friends and family members and other ministers that have celebrated what God has done in my life. People that have been very for me. I've noticed how certain ministers that were behind me, happy for my success, cheered me on. God has blessed them in great ways. They've seen increase and favor and continue to rise higher. But there were a few ministers that weren't for me. They didn't know me, but they were hard, critical, jealous. They tried to stir up trouble. I didn't pay any attention. I didn't get bitter, talk badly about them. I just kept running my race, doing what I've been called to do. I understand this principle that with the blessing comes persecution. And I've noticed that these ministers that were very hard and critical have seen very little growth. In fact, some of them have gone way down. It's because they can't handle the blessing. If you can't celebrate people that are ahead of you, if you can't be happy when they get promoted, when their child gets a scholarship, when they get married, when their dream comes to pass, that's going to limit how high God will take you. Don't have a small-minded mentality. Your friend being promoted doesn't mean that God can't promote you. Your family member moving into that nice house shouldn't intimidate you. It should inspire you. God didn't run out of favor. If He did it for them, He could do it for you. Now I believe that God is about to release greater blessings, greater influence, greater resources, favor that you haven't seen. But for this to happen, you have to be able to handle the blessing. You have to get to the point where you're not bothered by persecution. You're okay with people not liking you. You're not defensive when people don't understand. You don't live bitter because they won't be for you. If you'll show God that you can handle the blessing, He'll open doors that you could never open. He'll cause opportunity, the right people to come to you, favor that will thrust you ahead. In Genesis 26, there was a great famine in the land. The people had very little food. And God told Isaac to not leave, but to stay in the city of Gerar, and God would bless him there. It was controlled by the Philistines. Everything was fine, friendly neighbors. Then Isaac went out and planted his crops. He stepped out in faith and sowed seeds in a time of famine. Didn't make sense. I can imagine his neighbors laughing, "Isaac, what are you doing? We're in a drought. There's no water for your crops." But the scripture says that same year, Isaac harvested 100 times what he planted. It's significant that Jesus said you would receive 100-fold what you give up for the cause of Christ. Here's this 100 times harvest. In the middle of the famine, Isaac was blessed in a great way. Verse 13 says, he became a wealthy man, and his wealth continued to increase. He acquired large flocks of sheep, great herds of cattle, and many staff. He was blessed in abundance. The next verse says, soon the Philistines became jealous. Didn't take long before the blessing stirred up trouble. It's funny how when you step out in faith, like Isaac, you're obedient. You stretch, take risks, pray and believe, God blesses you, then people get jealous. The fact is, the Philistines could have planted their crops. They could have stepped out in faith. But people that won't do what you're willing to do will be quick to find fault when you're blessed. The Philistines had no problem with Isaac as long as he was suffering. But as soon as God blessed him, as soon as his business took off, as soon as he stood out, they became jealous, critical, started finding fault. And they didn't just talk about him, they clogged up his wells. They filled them full of dirt. The king said, Isaac, you've become too wealthy and too powerful for us. You have to move somewhere else. Isaac could have argued, I'm not leaving. This is my property. He could have been baited into conflict, started fighting the Philistines. Instead, he moved to the valley and lived there. He understood with the blessing comes persecution. The Philistines couldn't handle his success. The king admitted, you're too powerful for us. It wasn't about Isaac. He didn't take it personally. It was about the blessing on his life. When people don't accept you, when they leave you out, they try to stir up conflict, don't take it personally. It's not about you. It's about the favor that God's put on you. If you can't handle the persecution, then God won't trust you with the blessing. Are you upset over who's against you, who turned on you, who's talking about you? It comes with the blessing. But if you get bent out of shape every time you face persecution, that's going to keep you from the abundance that belongs to you. With great favor comes great haters. With great abundance comes great opposition. With great blessing comes great persecution. When we pray for the blessings, God, give me great favor, great influence, great ideas. That's good. I believe in asking big, but we should add to that prayer, and God, help me to endure great persecution. Help me to not live bitter, try to pay people back. Help me to stay on the high road and trust you to fight my battles. Too many people suffer from destination disease. They've reached a certain level, attained a goal. Now they're coasting off of what they've already learned. Studies tell us that 50% of people, after they graduate from high school, will never read an entire book the rest of their life. One reason is we see learning as a period of life instead of a way of life. We learned when we were growing up in school. We had teachers, coaches, parents that taught us, expected us to learn. But now we think, I'm out of school, done with my training, I've got my job. But God never created us to reach one level and stop. Whether you're 90 years old or 9 years old, we should constantly be learning, improving our skills, getting better at what we do. You have to take responsibility for your growth. Growth is not automatic. What steps are you taking to get better? Are you reading books, listening to teaching CDs? Are you taking any courses on the internet, going to any seminars? Do you have any mentors? Are you gleaning from people that know more than you? Don't just coast through life relying off of what you've already learned. You have treasure on the inside. There is skill, talent, potential put in you by the Creator of the universe, but it's not going to automatically come out. It has to be developed. And I read where the wealthiest places on earth are not the oil fields of the Middle East, nor the diamond mines of South Africa. The wealthiest places are the cemeteries, buried in the ground. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives on the inside of you. The forces of darkness did their best to stop Jesus, but they couldn't keep Him from rising. That tells me nothing you face can keep you from your purpose. No pandemic, no sickness, no addiction. The enemy may have done his best, but his best will never be enough. A few years back, we had a big hurricane here in Houston. I noticed all the different kind of trees that were blown down. Huge oak trees, 3 or 4 feet around. I saw pine trees over 100 feet tall laying in yard after yard. Big trees, small trees, none of them could withstand the hurricane force winds. There was only one type of tree that wasn't blown down. It was the palm tree. It's because God designed the palm to withstand the storm. Unlike the other trees, the palm is able to bend so it doesn't break. A certain kind of palm can bend all the way over to where the top is almost touching the ground. During a hurricane, it may stay that way for 3 or 4 hours, all bent over, looks like it's done. But when the wind dies down, the storm is over, it stands right back up to where it was before. All these other trees down on the ground, what's the difference? God put bounce back in the palm tree. It may get pushed over, but it's only temporary. Psalm 92 says, the righteous will flourish like a palm tree. The reason God chose a palm tree, not oaks or pines, is He knew we would go through storms. He knew things would try to push us down and keep us from our destiny. So He said, I'm going to make you like a palm. I'm going to put bounce back in your spirit. And you may go through difficulties, a loss, a disappointment, but at some point the winds will stop, the storm will pass, and like that palm, you'll come right back up again. You may be bent over right now. You're facing challenges. Thoughts are telling you it's never going to work out. No, get ready to rise. You have bounce back in your spirit. When that storm is over, you're not going to be laying down, beat up. You're going to rise up healthy, blessed, prosperous. You're not going to look like what you've been through. Nobody is going to be able to tell that you even had that difficulty. What I love about God is He doesn't just bring you through the storm, He makes the enemy pay for bringing the trouble. When the palm tree is bent over during the hurricane, you would think that was damaging the tree and making it weaker. But research shows just the opposite. When the tree is being pushed over and stretched by the strong winds, that's strengthening the root system, giving it new opportunities for growth. When the palm tree straightens back up after the storm, it's actually stronger than it was before. And when you come out of that storm, when you straighten back up, you're not going to be the same. You're going to be stronger, healthier, better off, ready for new growth. When you're in difficult times, you need to remind yourself, I may bend, but I'm not going to break. God won't let you face anything that will be too much for you to handle. And things may be coming against you, but know this, down is not your destiny. Defeat is not how your story ends. Sickness, trouble, not having enough is not permanent. I believe even now those winds are starting to subside. Forces that have hindered you are being broken. Powers of darkness are being pushed back. You're about to see breakthroughs, freedom, joy, victory. Micah chapter 7, Micah lists all these negative things that have happened. He talked about how he was overwhelmed with sorrow, how he'd gone through bad breaks. If he would have stopped there, we wouldn't be reading about him. He went on to say in verse 7, but as for me, I'm not giving up. I'm sticking around to see what God is going to do. I know He will make things right. He had this attitude of faith. I've come too far to stop now. He was expecting God to turn it around. That's why he said in the next verse, don't rejoice when I fall, I shall arise. But sometimes we've been in the storm so long, we've forgotten what it's like to be standing back up. The enemy would love to convince us to settle for being bent over, living in dysfunction, bitter over who hurt us, thinking we'll never be happy again. We need to do like Micah. Yes, I've had some bad breaks. Yes, life has thrown me some curves, but I'm not giving up on my dreams. I'm not settling for mediocrity. I'm sticking around to see what God is going to do. I know He's going to make things right. Don't get talked out of your dreams. Don't let the delays, the unfair childhood, the unexpected storm convince you that you've seen your best days. God is up to something. And what looks like a setback is all a part of His plan. He may not have sent the difficulty, but He wouldn't have allowed it if it was going to keep you from your destiny. And if you'll have this attitude of faith, God will make things right in your life. He will restore what the enemy tried to steal. He'll pay you back for the wrongs. He'll open doors that you couldn't open. He will get you to your destiny. In Genesis 37, Joseph was a teenager. God gave him a dream that he would be in leadership. He would have great influence. He had many older brothers, but he was the favorite son of their father Jacob. Because he was born later in life, Jacob treated him differently. He even had them make Joseph a special robe of many colors. I'm sure Joseph was proud of that robe, made him stand out, and gave him prestige. But his brothers were jealous of Joseph. They didn't like the special treatment. They didn't like the fact that he had these dreams and that he thought he was going to do something great. One day his father asked him to travel to another city to check on his brothers. They were out working in a field. When they saw Joseph coming from a distance wearing that colorful robe, they thought, this is our big chance to get rid of Joseph. They took the robe off of him and threw him into a pit. They were going to put blood on his robe and tell their father that he had been eaten by a wild animal. But about that time, a caravan of Ishmaelites came passing by. The brothers decided to sell Joseph as a slave instead of leaving him to die in the pit. It's interesting how God will always have the right people show up at the right time. That caravan had been traveling for months. They left long before Joseph went to check on his brothers. But God has everything figured out. He knows what you're going to need, when you're going to need it, who's going to need to be there. You don't have to worry. God has it all lined up. He's going to get you to your destiny. People can't stop you. A bad break, injustice, God is ordering your steps. He's not only in control of your life, He's in control of the circumstances around you. Now Joseph was no longer the favorite son, wearing the colorful robe. He was a slave in a foreign country, working for a man named Potiphar. Year after year went by. Joseph kept doing the right thing, being good to people that weren't good to him. I can imagine many nights he thought about home, about that robe he used to have and what that meant. And tears would fill his eyes and thoughts would whisper, it's not fair. You'll never accomplish your dreams. You'll never see your father again. You'll never have that robe of many colors. But deep down, I can hear Joseph praying, Father, thank you that what you started in my life, you will finish. I don't see a way, but I know you have a way. I may be down, but I believe I will rise again, that what you promised me will come to pass. 13 years after Joseph was thrown into that pit, the Pharaoh had a dream. He didn't know what it meant. Joseph was in prison. Someone remembered that he could interpret dreams. And they called him in. He told the Pharaoh what the dream meant, how it had to do with the food supply and how they needed to store up grain and get everything prepared for a famine. The Pharaoh was so impressed with Joseph, his advisors were discussing who should be appointed for this new position. Pharaoh told them no one could do it better than Joseph. He put Joseph in charge of the whole nation. He said in verse 44, no one will move hand or foot in all of Egypt without your approval. He had his staff bring a royal robe and put it on Joseph. He took off his prison clothes, took off his slave clothes, and he put on this robe of honor, robe of influence, robe of authority. Imagine now Joseph thinking back about the robe that his brothers took away from him, the robe that represented favor. He was disappointed at the time. He wanted it back. It didn't seem fair. But now he realized without losing the robe of many colors, he would have never had the robe of authority, that robe that said, I'm in charge of a nation. If you knew what God has in store for you, you wouldn't be discouraged over the robe of many colors that you lost, that job that didn't work out, the person that walked away, the loan that didn't go through. If you could see the robe of authority that's coming, the robe of influence, the robe of abundance, the robe of unprecedented favor, you wouldn't be bitter over who hurt you, upset over the time in the pit, frustrated by what you lost. What God has in your future is so amazing, you will never complain about your past. You may be down now, but like Joseph, get ready to rise. Favor is coming like you've never seen. God is about to do something unusual, something uncommon, something that catapults you to a new level. Your story doesn't end with a robe of many colors that you lost. Doesn't end with a dream that didn't work out, a relationship that didn't make it, a business that went down. The robe of many colors was simply foreshadowing what God is about to do. It was supposed to be temporary. Wasn't supposed to last. If the door closed, accept it and move on. Don't spend your life wishing you had the robe of many colors back when God has something so much better in your future. Don't go around bitter because someone threw you into a pit. Someone betrayed you. You were cheated in a business deal. God saw it. He wouldn't have let them take the colorful robe. He wouldn't have let that bad break happen if it was going to keep you from your destiny. God can cause opportunity to find you. He has unexpected blessings. to where suddenly you meet the right person. Suddenly your health improves. Suddenly you're able to pay your house off. What happened? You came into a shift. God breathed in your direction. What used to be a struggle is not a struggle anymore. What should have taken years happened in a fraction of the time. Now you may feel like you're stuck today. You could never accomplish a dream, never overcome a problem. It's been too long. You've missed too many opportunities. God is saying, no, get ready. I'm about to shift things. Doors are going to open for you that have not opened in the past. The people that were against you are going to suddenly change their mind and be for you. That problem that's dogged you for years, looked like it'd never change, is going to suddenly turn around. This is the year of the shift. Because you've honored God, He's going to put you in a position that you could have never attained on your own. It's not just your education, not just your talent, or the family you come from. It's the hand of God shifting you to a new level of your destiny. And I'm not just trying to make you feel good today. I'm prophesying a shift is coming. A shift in your health, a shift in your finances, a shift in a relationship. It may not look like it in the natural, but we serve a supernatural God. He's about to breathe in your direction in a new way. The enemies you've seen in the past, you will see no more. The addictions, bad habits that are holding you back are being broken, and God's favor is being released in a new way. It's going to propel you forward. What should have taken you 40 years to accomplish, God's going to do in a split second. The shift is acceleration. The shift is going beyond where you could go on your own. The shift is overcoming what a medical report says is impossible. The shift is seeing that wayward child change his mind and get back on the right course. The shift is having your best year when the circumstances say you should have a down year. The shift is seeing Jehovah Jireh, the Lord our provider, not only provide, but do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond. Now our attitude should be, God, I'm ready. I'm taking the limits off of you. I'm enlarging my vision. I may not see a way, but I know you have a way. I declare I'm coming into a shift. Now those doors that were closed in the past, you need to go check again. Things have shifted. The dream you had to start a new business, to go back to college, to take that missions trip, may not have happened the first time, but that's okay. It's prepared you for this time. Don't give up on it. It's a new day. Things have shifted. Pursue it again. When God breathes in your direction, people change their mind. Closed doors suddenly open. The no's turn into yeses. The not now's into it's your time. I know a man that had been out of work for over 3 years. He's in construction management. For 25 years, he had a very good position at a successful company. But a few years ago, when the economy went down and building tapered off, his company didn't have any business and had to let him go. He went to interview after interview, month after month, no success. He ended up taking a much lower level position in a small city and had to travel a couple of hours every day to work. It's taken a toll on his health, his marriage, his savings. Looked like it'd never change. But about 6 months ago, his former boss called and said, hey, are you ready to go back to work? That company landed the largest contract in their history. He not only got his job back, but all of his benefits were restored. He used to have to travel around the country. Now he gets to stay at home. Plus, they increased his salary significantly. He said, this is exceedingly abundantly above and beyond. What happened? He came into a shift. Suddenly, things changed in his favor. One phone call, one contract, one good break. He went from barely getting by to having more than enough. Now you need to get ready. These shifts are in your future. The Israelites had been in slavery for many years, mistreated by their captors. They were forced to work long hours, not given the proper rest or food, and When they didn't meet their quotas, they were beaten with rods. It was very unfair. But one day, through a series of events, God supernaturally brought them out. As they were leaving, the Scripture says, God caused them to have favor with their enemies. Notice, God caused them to have favor. The same people that had oppressed them for years, the same ones that had pushed them down and mistreated them, suddenly changed their mind. They said, in effect, we've decided that we like you now. We want to be good to you. On their way out, they gave the Israelites their gold, silver, and jewels. What happened? The Israelites came into a shift. God changed their enemy's mind. Proverbs says that God can turn the heart of a king. We may not be able to change people's mind, but God can. He controls the whole universe. Now, you may have people in your life like this, people that don't like you, boss that's hard to get along with, family member that's disrespectful. It's easy to get discouraged and think, this is always going to be this way. They're always going to be against me. No, stay in faith. God has a shift coming. God knows how to cause them to like you. God can cause them to see you in a new light. They may have been against you year after year, but when God shifts things, they'll go out of their way to be good to you. Instead of hindering you, they'll help you. Bottom line, God will not allow any person to keep you from your destiny. They may be bigger, stronger, more powerful, but God knows how to shift things around and get you to where you're supposed to be. I have a friend that never really liked his supervisor. Nobody at the company did. This supervisor was very hard to get along with and condescending. He'd been a source of frustration year after year. The supervisor was a young man, looked like he could be at the company 20, 30 years. And my friend has a good attitude, but deep down, he thought this is going to be a pain to put up with this guy. But one morning, he got to work and everything seemed like normal, but the management called a staff meeting and told how this supervisor's wife got transferred to another state, and he had just resigned and was no longer with the company. Half the staff fell on their knees and began to thank God. What happened? A divine shift. Suddenly, God changed things. Now, quit worrying about the people that are trying to hold you back. God knows how to move the wrong people out of your life and bring the right people in. And even if God doesn't move them, it says in Psalms, you can run through a troop and leap over a wall. God can cause you to go over them or around them or even through them, but God is going to get you to where you're supposed to be. Now, some of you feel like you're too far back. The obstacles are too big. You could never really get ahead. No, all God has to do is breathe in your direction. One simple shift can take you from the back to the front. One good break, one idea, one divine connection. Years ago, I was at an amusement park with our two children, and we were in line for a very popular ride. At first, it was all single file, but when you got close to the front, you went into this little building about 20 feet by 20 feet and waited. And we were the first ones in this new batch, first ones into the building, and so we walked all the way to the front by these big double doors and waited. But other people began to come in. They were excited about getting on the ride, and they started maneuvering their way in front of us. Now, I'm more laid back and easygoing. I wasn't going to get in there and try to fight for our position. We ended up at the very back of the room, right where we came in. In a few minutes, a young lady came out that worked at the park, and she gave instructions and told what was going to go on. Then she said, okay, we're ready to go. Turn around and go back out the same doors you came in. I wanted to say, nanny, nanny, boo-boo. But in the same way, all God has to do is shift the direction and you'll go from the back up to the front. The truth is, you are one shift from seeing a dream come to pass. One shift from paying your house off. One shift from seeing your health improve. One shift from meeting the right person. Hey, you say, Joel, you're just getting people's hopes up. You're right. You can't have faith if you don't first have hope. When you go out with the attitude, God, I believe things are shifting in my favor this year, that's not just being positive, that's your faith being released. God says to the angels, listen to what they're saying. They believe I'm all powerful. They believe I can do the impossible. Let me move this person out of the way. Let me open up this new door. Let me line up this new relationship. Let me turn that negative situation around. It says in Isaiah that this is God's year to act. Not next year, not 5 years, not in the sweet by and by. This is the year God's going to shift things in your favor. He's getting it all lined up. What you could not make happen on your own, God is going to cause you to accomplish. It's going to be bigger than you thought. It's going to happen quicker than you imagined. And it's going to be more rewarding than you ever dreamed of. Genesis chapter 48. There's a story of when Jacob was an old man, very close to death. His son Joseph came to visit him and say his goodbyes. He and his father were very close. Joseph was Jacob's favorite child. He was the youngest son, the one that Jacob gave the coat of many colors to, if you remember. At one point, Jacob thought Joseph was dead, lived very sadly, until he found out indeed Joseph was alive and living in Egypt. They reunited, and now Jacob, the father, was about to pass. Joseph was standing before him with his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, Jacob's grandsons. Jacob said, Joseph, I'm going to bless your sons as if they were my own children. The right hand in those days always gave the greatest blessing. It belonged to the firstborn son. That was the tradition. So Joseph put his oldest son, Manasseh, in front of Jacob's right hand, and his younger son, Ephraim, in front of his left. Jacob was nearly blind. He couldn't see. When he went to give the blessing, Jacob crossed his hands and put his right hand on the younger son, Ephraim, and his left hand on Manasseh, the older son. Joseph said, no, Dad, you can't see. I had them lined up. I put Manasseh in front of your right hand. He deserves it. Give him the greater blessing. Jacob said something very interesting. It gives us insight into our God. He said, no, Joseph, I've crossed my hands on purpose. Ephraim may have come second. He may have been in the back. He doesn't deserve it. Didn't qualify for it. He's not next in line, but I'm shifting him to a new position. I'm taking him from the back up to the front. I'm going to give him what he doesn't deserve. That's the way our God is. He has shifts in your future that will put you at a position that you didn't earn, you didn't qualify for, you weren't next in line, you didn't have seniority. But God, just like He did with Ephraim, is going to cross His hands and say, I'm going to move them up from the back to the front. From not being qualified to suddenly being qualified. From being looked down on, disrespected, to being honored and seen with influence and credibility. In fact, some people will be bothered by it. They think that's not fair. I worked harder, I have more seniority, but the fact is, it's just the goodness of God. God said because you honor Him, He would give you houses that you didn't have to build. You would reap from vineyards that you did not plant. That's God crossing His hands, giving us what should have taken years to earn. Mark chapter 6, Jesus was with His disciples, and so many people were crowding around. He told them to get in the boat so they could have some time alone. Verse 32 says, they departed to a desert place. People saw where they were heading. When they arrived, there were thousands of people waiting for them. Jesus began to teach them. Late in the day, the disciples said, Jesus, it's almost night. We're out here in the desert. There's nothing to eat. Send the people home. Jesus said, you feed them. They said, with what? We're in the desert. We don't have food for all these people. Jesus asked them for what they had. They gave Him 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. Verse 39 says, Jesus told the crowd to sit down in groups on the green grass. 3 times in this passage, it says they were in a desert place. Now He's telling them to sit on green grass. The people were tired, hot, hungry. Jesus hadn't multiplied the food yet. They hadn't received the miracle. But while they were waiting, God gave them grass in the desert. He made the hard places easier. He didn't stop them from going into the desert. He didn't keep them from the heat, but He did lighten the load. We all go through desert places in life. Problems that should overwhelm us, giants that should defeat us, bad breaks that should make us bitter. But somehow in the midst of these challenges, there's a force sustaining us. We feel strength that we didn't have, courage to keep moving forward, grace to endure. We look back and think, how did I make it through the loss of my loved one? How did I overcome that sickness? How did I raise that child that was so difficult? It was God giving you grass in the desert. God making the hard places easier. Without His grace, we would have gone under. Without His favor, that sickness would have defeated you. Without Him breathing in your direction, you wouldn't have made it through that breakup. He didn't stop the trouble, but He did keep the trouble from stopping you. You could have fallen apart. You could have had a nervous breakdown, gotten bitter, but God gave you green grass in the desert. He sustained you. When you could have been overwhelmed, He stepped in and lightened the load. That's why that person showed up at just the right time to help you. It wasn't a lucky break, it was grass in the desert. That's why you had the strength to take that treatment. When you should have been discouraged, worn out, it was grass in the desert. That's why this pandemic hasn't defeated you. You could be stressed out, not able to make it, but there's grass in the desert. God hasn't changed it all yet. You haven't seen the promise come to pass. You're still believing for the healing, the promotion, the spouse. The good news is, while you're waiting, God is making your hard places easier. You may not be able to tell it, but if it wasn't for the goodness of God, that sickness would have taken you out. Without His favor, that trouble would have overwhelmed you. Without His mercy, that addiction would have defeated you. No matter what you go through, an illness, a divorce, a betrayal, because you're a child of the Most High God, there's going to be green grass in the desert. It's not going to overwhelm you. It's not going to be too much. God is going to do things that don't make sense. He's going to give you strength that you can't explain, courage that you didn't know you had, favor that you didn't see coming. You may be in a desert place now. The right attitude is, Lord, I want to thank You for the green grass. Thank You